everyone, my name is Louise and I'm a part of the sales and distribution team for Coral Expeditions. I am coming to you live from our head office in Cairns today. We are recording today's webinar and we'll send a recorded version to everyone that's registered so you can share with your friends and your family. I am also joined by one of our guest lecturers, John. He's part of our team on board that takes you on all of your excursions and he's a wealth of knowledge. So he's going to chime in just a moment and take you through day by day of what their excursions are like. I just want to thank everyone as well for taking the time to join our webinar today. So we will have an opportunity for questions at the end. So today's focus is taking you on a journey with Coral Expeditions to give you an insight into how to explore Tasmania's rugged mountain ranges, coastal cliffs and world-renowned hikes the Australian way with an Australian company. So for those of you that are new to Coral Expeditions, we've operated for 40 years and always with a single purpose. So that's to take small groups of like-minded explorers to remote places with our expert guides and our warm Australian hospitality. So John has been with us, has worked with Parks and Wildlife for 18 years. So I'm just going to hand over to him now and he'll run through a bit about what he's been doing in Tassie for the last 18 years and then he'll get stuck into the itinerary. So over to you, John.
Right, well, good afternoon, everyone. Yes, well, I started 18 years ago. I'd been on an overseas trip for 10 weeks to Canada and Alaska, and I came back home. My son had an application for a job for Parks as an educational interpretation ranger. And anyway, I put in an application at the age of just over 60. I thought, oh, no, I won't get this, but there couldn't be many good applicants that year, so I happened to get a job. And after a couple of years, this job was only for a 3-month contract, being a penguin guide. But after a couple of years, I was made permanent, and I go all round Tasmania, working as a educational guide, taking people for walks, going to school groups. This year, I'll be working at Cradle Mountain and at Stanley, and also down the northeast coast. So it's a good opportunity to see lots of parts of Tasmania, which is a beautiful island, I can assure you. I've been working with Coral Expeditions. When they first came down here, I think it was 2016, they had a discovery ranger from Parks and Wildlife on each trip that went down into Melaleuca and round the tent. They were all seven-day trips then round Tassie. And the following year, that I was surprised. I got a phone call and a message to see if I'd be interested in working with Coral. And so since then, I said yes, of course, because I really enjoyed the experience. A lovely company to work for. And so I've been working with them ever since, just doing Tasmanian trips. I've been into Port Davey, Melaleuca. That's a lovely spot down there, very remote area of Tasmania. The only way you can get in there is there's a walk you can do, which is a 7-day walk over 100 kilometres, very tough walk. Not many people choose to go that way, or you can fly in, and also Coral Expeditions will take you down there on the ship, and you can do walks. There's walks into Mount Milner, which is about a 1.5 hour walk, and you can, in the photo here, you can see Breaksea Island. So it's just inside Breaksea Island. Wonderful walk. You get a look around the harbour. You can look down to the south into Port Davey. And if people don't want to do that walk, it's around about 1.5 hours. You can usually go on the Explorer and do a trip around Breaksea Island, which is really interesting. You usually see birds of prey there. There's often eagles, brown falcons. I've even seen a peregrine falcon there. Yeah, lovely spot. So there's other walks you can do there. You can go to Mount Beatty, which starts in Clayton's Corner, and that's a couple of hours walk. But if you don't want to do the walks, there's always other options with the cruises you can do aboard the Explorer. Yeah, so once we've had usually a couple of days down in Bathurst Harbour, we come back to Bruny Island and call into Adventure Bay, and there's some really nice walks there. Go to the Fluted Cape, which is around 2 to 2.5 hours. If you do the whole walk, it's 2.5 hours. Usually we don't do the whole walk. We walk out to the grassy flats, and that's about 1.5 hours. And it's a great place to see wallaby. It's quite common to see white wallaby down there, Bennett's wallaby. I've seen echidnas on that track, lots of birds. I'm really keen bird watcher, so I usually keep a list of birds. I remember on the last trip, I had 67 different species of birds I found. When we're cruising, especially down around the southwest, it's quite common to see all the different seabirds. To see albatross, petrels, and lots of mutton birds, the short-tailed shearwaters, cormorants, gannets. So it's really interesting, and we also get lots of dolphins, and sometimes we're lucky enough to see whales on that cruising, especially down the south part of Tasmania. Yeah, Port Arthur. This was built very early in the 1800s, not long after Tasmania was settled. There were a lot of people were sent over here for very minor offences. Actually, I think one of my ancestors might have even been unfortunate enough to get there. I think it's in the DNA. That's why I tend to be a little bit naughty sometimes. Yeah, but so there's tours go there. The explorer will take you ashore there on a landing, and then we have really good guides that'll take you around and tell you all about the history and the harshness that these poor convicts had to endure. Some of the kids are only 10 and 12 years old that were sent over here for just such minor offences. They needed a lot of people over here because they were worried about the French taking over, and so they sent them over here, and then they were there for a few years. A lot of them then they'd go out and work on farms, and some even became policemen, all sorts of jobs. Yeah, this is Fortescue Bay. It makes up part of the Three Capes track. I have worked on the Three Capes track as a ranger there, as a host ranger, and yeah, there's Cape Hoy, Cape Row, and Cape Row, and one other cape I can't remember. And you look out from there over Tasman Island, and that's all been developed by Parks, and it's a 4 nights on the track. Very, very popular. It's booked out nearly all the time, and you can look out over Tasman Island. There's very high cliffs. We're so lucky to be able to go around in the cover in the what's the name of the ship? Yeah, and anyway, go around this area. We often get ashore or get into the boat in the Explorer and go into all the little nooks and crannies and look at the blowholes. It's a wonderful experience cruising around that area. This is one of my most popular spots in Tasmania. This is Wineglass Bay, and you can see the Hazards Peak. There's 5 Hazards Peaks, and I've been fortunate enough to climb all these peaks over the last 20 years or so. When we're up in that area, the Explorer usually takes us in and we land on the Hazards Beach, and then you'll have a option of walking through the isthmus, and you can come onto Wineglass Bay. Some of the fitter people walk up to the lookout, and others walk along the Wineglass Bay beach, and then the crew will bring out morning tea, and it's a wonderful experience. A nice day. Some of them will actually go swimming down there, and it's a beautiful beautiful part of Tasmania. This beach, the Wineglass Bay Beach, has been rated a few times as one of the nicest beaches found anywhere within Australia. Beautiful part of the world. This is on Bruny Island. We're looking at the painted cliffs here, the sandstone cliffs. You can walk around there. This is at low tide. You can only get round the front of them at low tide, and you can walk in there. We'd land in the harbour, and it's about probably an hour's walk back down through to the cliffs, and you can also walk. There's other walks around there. Lots of wildlife there. There's kangaroos. There's Cape Barren geese. There's also been devil's foot on there. 25 years ago, we had problems with our Tasmanian devils. They developed a devil facial tumour, and so they put a insurance population on there. They got healthy devils, put about a dozen or so on there, and they bred up really well, and then they were able to take them out. Some came to my area here where I live in the northern part of Tasmania and released into the national park there, and there's still devils on there. I've been fortunate enough to be there on many occasions with school groups and with coral expeditions, and we've seen devils at different times. Even in the daytime, you occasionally see devils there. So it's a wonderful part, and lots of birds. We have 12 endemic birds found in Tasmania, and it's quite common to see probably 8 or 9 of those endemic birds if we do a bird walking trip when people are quiet and just interested in birds, which often people are on these trips. So that's a great place to find some of our native birds. And Hobart, I was fortunate enough to be down there last week had a couple of meetings with Parks. Very nice little city. Along the waterfront, you've got lots of restaurants, and I love walking around the waterfront, looking at all the different boats, the fishing boats and tourist boats. You've got the Mount Wellington mountain overlooking Hobart, and it's not far to travel to Richmond or go down the peninsula. Yeah, it's a wonderful part. You go to North Hobart, you've got really good restaurants and lots of nice craft beers and wines to be found down there. So people that like their food and an occasional drink, great place to visit. So that's where you'll be catching the ship to go on your cruises. You can have 2 or 3 days prior to going on, and then a lot of people hire cars and continue on and staying on and travelling around and seeing the rest of Tasmania.
So for those of you that are new to coral expeditions, we are the pioneers of expedition cruising, and we have been cruising for over 40 years now. Like I mentioned, always with a single purpose, and that's to take small groups of like-minded explorers to remote places with our expert guidance and warm Australian hospitality. As John touched on, we do obviously do a lot of walks on this. It is the coastal treks. There's always different walks that range between 1, 2, right up to 5 hours. But you can have a look on our website, because there's all different gradings on that itinerary, and there's always different options. So if you feel like you can't do a 5-hour walk that day, that is so fine. There's going to be more than one option of excursion that day that you can choose from. So yes, if you're up to walking and you enjoy hiking, by all means go on the long one. But if you kind of want to go on a bit more of an easier walk, there will be those options available as well. We actually have quite a few Tasmania itineraries, which, as John mentioned as well, in Hobart, beautiful restaurants, food, wine, craft beers. Tassie really is a place for all the senses. So if you can get down there, we highly recommend it. Tassie is a beautiful part of the world. But I'll just touch on a little bit about who Coral Expeditions is and what we do. So we are an Australian-owned vessel, Australian-owned and flagged, so we don't need to venture out into international waters and back. We can stay in the place that we're visiting and spend more time ashore. So on board our vessels, we always encourage an Australian natural style service and an open interaction between our guests and our crew. So you can go down and watch your dinner being prepared with our local ingredients by our chefs, as we have an open galley policy. You can also go up into the bridge and have a chat or your morning coffee with the captain. We have an open bridge policy as well. Or you can join our guest lecturers like John at our meal times. They always join everyone for breakfast, lunch and dinner, and you can pick all their brains. But if you just want to sit back, relax as well, you can do that. We have lots of beautiful alfresco areas. We also do open engine room tours as well. So that's a really interesting tour to do. I really enjoyed that on board my trip. Once we're on board as well, we are all inclusive. So once you unpack, you can enjoy your expedition and you don't have to worry about any hidden surprises at the end. So a couple of the things, I won't go through the whole list because there's a lot that's included, but my favourite ones that are included are our pictures. So our expedition team do carry really good cameras with them the entire time, and they take beautiful pictures along the way. And then at the end, we'll send you a Dropbox link, and that'll have every single image that they've taken. So you'll have a whole voyage library at your fingertips at the end, and that's all included as well. And then we also have a standard Wi-Fi that's included, which is just perfect for checking in with your family at home, or doing the odd post on Facebook. But we do have an extra Wi-Fi package if you are looking to stream movies or do FaceTimes or Zoom meetings while you're on board. But other than that, we've got our meals included, our drinks during meal times, 24-hour barista style coffee and tea, everything, you name it. So our expedition crew and our guest lecturers. So our passionate expedition leaders are on board, and they take our guests on every single excursion. We don't hand over to land-based tour companies. We do focus more time ashore with 2 shore excursions daily where possible, depending on this Tasmania Tassie Treks. It might just be 1 excursion if you're out for a really long time. But there's always an option for everyone, like I mentioned. So if you don't feel comfortable walking the really long walks, you can always stay on board the Explorers and do a coastal cruise like John mentioned. The expedition team will always do a daily briefing, usually over sunset drinks, and they'll give you an overview for what's on the agenda for the next day. And this is a really good opportunity to talk with the team and ask any questions that you might have about the next day's activities. So how do we get you to these beautiful places? We have 3 ships in our 3 vessels in our fleet. So they're all Australian flagged, like I mentioned, and they're all very similar in make. They all have wrapped around promenade decks, private balconies on some of our staterooms, beautiful outdoor dining areas, so you can always enjoy the sunset no matter where you are. We also have a shallow draft, which means that we can get closer to shore, which are just inaccessible to the bigger ships. So on board our Tassie trips, we will be on our Coral Discoverer. So she carries 72 passengers, 36 staterooms. She's our smallest vessel. We like to call her our yacht-like vessel. She's also our oldest vessel. She's about 15 years old, but she comes back to Cairns, our home port, every year and gets lots of love. She always has refurbishments being done, so fresh carpets or fresh paint. But yeah, she's usually loved by our loyal members because it's just that little bit smaller, a little bit more intimate. And people usually do fall in love with our Coral Discoverer. She's a beautiful little ship. On board our ships, they all carry our Explorer tenders, which we like to call our safari jeeps of the sea. As you can see in this picture, to get off on our, we call them wet landings, when there's no jetty to pull up to, where we can just go straight up to the beach because we've got really flat bottoms. The nose of the front of the Explorer comes down, and you can just walk off the ramp like that lady is doing in the image. And our expedition team just stands side by side and guides you off gently. You can also see in that picture that we've got a roof, which is perfect for keeping you out of the sun. We have clears that come down, like the blinds that come down the side. So if we do run into some rain or some cold wind, which is possible in Tasmania, we can pull them all down and you still have that beautiful panoramic view, but you are protected and you're kept warm. There's also a toilet on board for remote convenience as well. We also have a PA system, so we can do commentary along the way, which is really great. We don't have to pull over to the side so that you can hear us out of the winds like when we're on the Zodiacs, which is great. And it also carries our entire ship's capacity, so we all go out together as a group. We don't have to take it in turns. As you can see on the back of our ship, we've got this really big blue hydraulic platform, and that's what our Explorers sit on. So the Explorers get lowered down to the second deck, where you just walk straight across a ramp to get on, so it's really accessible. And then it just gets lowered down and off in under 5 minutes. It's really amazing. they do make our excursions really comfortable, and it just means that we can be out for longer, especially with that added convenience of having a toilet on board. We do still have our Zodiacs. They do just provide a way to get a little bit closer to nature if need be, and to help navigate narrow inlets and waterways. So they always go side by side, our Explorers. We're never in them for too long because we do understand those bench seats can be a little bit uncomfortable. But we do definitely still use them. They are really fun. They go really fast. They're a bit of an added adventure. But yes, we usually use our Explorers for most of our excursions. And that is it. Thank you everyone so much for listening. If you do have any questions, please pop them in the question box and I'll get to them shortly. But thank you so much, John, as well, for tuning in today.